Hello and welcome back to this second session of Mastercam 2021 HLE, the Home Learning Edition. This is available for download for free from the Mastercam website. I will leave a link down below in the description, and all you have to do is download the software, install it. You can open it up and you can practice CAD CAM. You will not be able to post out code, but you can practice all the features, whether it's milling, turning, or design work. So this is session 2. Let's get started. All right, in the previous session, we talked about how to draw a rectangle. Now, I'm going to place my cursor over here and zoom out. That brings my crosshair to the upper left-hand corner of the screen. And we want to make sure we're set to Z0. Then make sure we're set to 2D and right-click and make sure we're set to top. When you've done that, let's go to wireframe. We'll select rectangle. We're going to let our cursor snap to the origin, drag away, click, and let's give it a length of 24 inches. Hit the tab key, -12. Enter, then click OK. Then we can right click and fit, and then we can zoom out and keep our part in the center of our screen. Now, again, my geometry showed up blue, so we can right click and notice we have wireframe color, solid color, and surface color from the right click menu. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the color to black. Then I'm going to draw a window around my geometry. Right click again, click on that color, and now black is the active color, and I have also changed my geometry to black. Now, from the View tab, let's go to Show Axis and turn off our crosshair. We now know that the crosshair was attached to this upper left-hand corner, so when we post out our code, all the code will be coming from this upper left-hand corner. All right, so let's go ahead and start a machine file. And the way we do that is we go to the Machine tab, click on Mill, select Default, and notice we now have a machine group. Now, if you click on the little plus sign, right on the second line there, it opens up some options there. If we click on Files, then we can actually change the name of that machine group, and we're going to call it Face for facing. Notice how it changed the name of that group. Okay, so in the future, if you're creating an operation that is operation 1 or operation for side 1, then you can change the name of that machine group, and that will help you identify what that operation or what that machine group is going to do for you. The thing is, you can create multiple machine groups in this one file, so you want to be able to label them correctly. All right, right click right next to the red arrow, and then go to Mill Toolpaths and select Face. Then make sure you're set to chain, make sure that's highlighted, and just select one of the legs of your rectangle and then click OK. That opens up your menu where we're going to add a tool and adjust some of the parameters. So the first thing we're going to do, at the tool type, toolpath type, it's already set to facing, so we're good to go there. Then we select tool. Now we have no tool in our magazine or in our library, so we select on library tool. It should be set to face mill because this is a face milling operation. Now, if that's not what you see, then click on filter and make sure that only the face mill icon is highlighted, and then click OK. We're going to select a 4-inch face mill and click OK. So that brings it into our library here. Double click on it. That opens up the menu where we can change the details of that tool. Okay, so you can see when I click on each field, it kind of gives us a description of where that dimension is taken. So that is the 4" 492 for the outside of the body. That's the diameter at the top of the insert, assuming the insert is at 45 degrees. Okay, the overall height of the tool body is 2.1 inches, and cutting length, you can adjust that based on the actual tool that you're going to be using. Okay, chamfer angle shows the way the inserts are angled at the bottom of your tool, and then again we have a shoulder length and an upper diameter. So you can change all those dimensions based on the actual tool that you're going to be using. All right, then we're going to click on next, and we have the option to change the tool number. So let's make that tool number 1 and just click enter, and it updates all three. It changed the length offset and the diameter offset automatically. Then I usually make sure that my description is what I want. And I'm not going to change the feeds and speeds in this menu. We click finish to get out of this menu. And now we have tool number 1 in our library. So here is where I change the feeds and speeds. So for the mild steel, we're going to be using 600 surface foot. When I hit enter, you can see it automatically calculates the spindle speed for that tool. So it takes the surface footage and it sees that it is a 4-inch tool, so it automatically calculates that for us. Then we want to feed that at 30 inches a minute, and we're going to plunge feed at 50 inches a minute. Make sure you always put a comment in the comment section. That will show up when you post out at the top of that operation, and that's always what you want to do, is communicate to the operator what that operation is going to do. Then the next thing we're going to do or select is cut parameters. When we get into the cut parameters, these are the default numbers that the software has already created for us based on the diameter of the tool and the size of the part. Okay. First thing we want to do is make sure when we face that we leave 0 stock on the floors. Okay. Then these values we're going to leave alone for now. We're going to backplot and see what they're going to do. But let's talk about the menu we have to choose from. It always defaults to one way, but we have zigzag, one way, one pass, and dynamic. So let's talk about that. Zigzag, as you can see, you get a preview. It starts at the far left corner, it comes across, steps over, and comes back without ever lifting up. Okay, and it cuts the part all the way across. Then we have one way. It starts at the far left corner, it cuts across. The yellow line is a rapid move back to the left side of the part, comes down and feeds across. Rapids to a retract plane, rapids across, and it does that until the whole part is machined. Okay. Then we have one pass, and that only works if the tool is larger than the width of your part. And if I was to select that right now, it would see that my tool is only 4 inches, my part is 12 inches wide, so it will say we cannot do that in one pass, part is too big or tool is too small. Then you also have dynamic, and we're going to cover all of these. Dynamic starts on one end of the part and basically does a circular motion from the outside to the inside, always staying engaged in the cut at a step over of 3 inches a minute until all the material is removed. So the most common way people will face is one way. So let's start with that. So before we click OK, we want to select linking parameters. The first thing you want to look at is make sure that everything is set to absolute. Okay, we work in a G90 in our program, and everything is based on absolute numbers. So the first number we want to check is the retract plane, and I would suggest putting that at 1 inch. Feed plane, let's put that at 0.1. Top of stock, let's say we have 50 thousandths to take off, and we are exposing Z0 when we're doing a facing operation, so the depth is at Z0. Let's click OK. Now here's a preview of the toolpaths. It's hard to see, but you see the blue lines, then a yellow line going back to the left, okay, to take the next pass. And on the last pass, instead of jumping up and starting on this end, it actually steps over and makes a pass in reverse, making sure that the tool pushes the burr back onto the part. Now, if you click on this button right here in this menu, the little waves, it says backplot selected operation, so make sure you have a check mark in facing. Click on it, and this is your backplot operation. So you can actually simulate your toolpath. Now we're looking at this from the top. I'm going to let it play. So that's your play button. You can see it feeds across. The yellow line means that is rapiding across. Now look in your lower left hand corner, and it keeps up with your X, Y, and Z values. Okay, so right now it's at 1 inch rapiding across, feeds down to Z0, moves across, jumps up and over. Now, that last pass, it does not jump up. It actually steps over and feeds back to the other side. Now, on this menu here, you have the play button, the stop button, previous stop, so it rewinds everything. This fast forwards everything, and this steps forward and steps backward. Okay, so I can rewind, click play again, and I can roll my screen just by holding the center mouse button down. I can look at that in a 3D view. Okay, you can also right click and just click isometric, or you can look at it from the right view as it steps across, or you can look at it from the front view, and then always do fit to get everything back in the center of your screen. Okay, so let's go back to top. So then when you're done, you just click OK and you're back out of the backplot screen. All right, so let's go back into parameters. So when you click parameters, it gets you back into this window where we can actually go back to cut parameters. And let's talk a little bit about our options in here. The across overlap, the 1 inch, is the amount that the tool is overlapping when it makes the first pass across the part. How much of the tool is actually sticking over the edge. Now it does it on the far side and the near side, so you can actually tighten that up. Let's say you only want to overhang a 1/2 inch. Now we know we have a 4-inch tool, so let's say we want to step over 3.5 inches. So having changed those two parameters, and I click OK, now notice I made a change and it puts an X in there. That means that operation is dirty. So we have two buttons to regenerate dirty operations. If you had multiple operations that need regenerating, click this one, or you can just select regenerate all selected, and you can do one at a time. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Regenerate. Now notice it's only doing 4 passes now because I have less overlap on the edge and I have increased the step over. Okay, so now if I hit play, there's less hangover, okay, on the edge, and my step over is larger, therefore it takes less step over to go across my part. So in essence, that's going to save you some cycle time. Now if you want to look at the cycle time, click on these two blue arrows, click on information, and grab this corner and drag it down and over, and you can see this operation is going to take us 4 minutes and 38 seconds based on the feeds and speeds that we programmed. Okay. Now, if I change that back to the initial numbers, let's say we'll put that back at 1 inch and 3 inch step over, we click OK. we regenerate, go back into backplot. Now notice that's 5 passes. If I click on information, now notice that is 5 minutes and 47 seconds. So that's a longer cycle time to face the operation. So reduce the amount of tool paths always if you can to reduce the cycle time. So click OK, and that covers one-way facing. Now, one thing I do want to mention is notice that our tool paths are in the x-axis direction. Okay, now there are going to be cases where you want your tool paths to go parallel with your y-axis. So we have an option to change it or to rotate those tool paths. So right here where it says auto angle and roughing angle, we can enter 90 degrees, click OK, then regen, and now notice our toolpath are 90 degrees to the part parallel with the y-axis. There will be times where you want to be able to have that option. So let's change that back to 0. Okay. Another thing real quick, if you uncheck reverse direction of Lastpass, if I uncheck that and regen, then notice on that Lastpass, it will not reverse direction. It will actually retract the 1 inch and make the Lastpass in the same direction, left to right. So that's how you would change that. So let's put a check mark back in that, and let's move on to Zigzag. So when you select a Zigzag, you can see the preview goes from the far left corner, feeds across, steps over without retracting, and goes back and forth. Okay. Again, you can change the amount of overlap on each edge and the step over to reduce the amount of passes and also the cycle time. So let's just go ahead and click OK, and let's watch the toolpaths. You can see it stays down. Again, you can look at your numbers in the lower left hand corner. That Z never retracts. Okay. Information 6 minutes 14 seconds. Now there are more step overs, and a lot of that has to do with this checkbox here where it says even number of passes. If I uncheck that box and regen, it has reduced the amount of passes that it takes to come all the way across, and I've already reduced my cycle time just by unchecking that box. Okay, if I go in and actually change this to 1/2 inch overlap and 3.5 inch step over, click enter, click OK, click regen. Now notice in 4 passes, and my total cycle time is now down to 4 minutes and 17 seconds. All right, so we go back into parameters. The next one available is the 1 pass. Now, if my tool was big enough to mill across the center of that part and cover it front to back, then it would allow, it would actually do a pass right down the middle from left to right. Again, you could change direction just by putting 180 degrees in there. And as a matter of fact, you can change the start of your facing operation just by entering 180 to the opposite side of your part. So it starts on the front side. Okay, so 1 pass, real simple. If your tool is big enough to cover the whole part, it'll allow you to select this feature or this option, make 1 pass left to right, right down the center of your part. Now, let's talk about the last one, dynamic. So it would have defaulted at 3 inches, and let's see what a dynamic toolpath looks like. So we click OK. We click on regen, and here's a preview of what that toolpath looks like. Again, the blue lines are the center line of the tool. Let's go into backplot and let's hit play, and I turned quick verify on. That's this icon right here, and that shows you where the tool has been. You can turn that on and off. Okay, that just allows you to see where the tool is actually cutting. Now, there's nothing wrong with this type of toolpath. It may save you some time. It never comes off the part. It never lifts up to take another tool path, so there's no wasted time. The thing about it is your tool path or the tool marks will show up like this on your part. So cosmetically, that may not look, what you want. But if that doesn't matter, then go ahead and use this type of toolpath. Or let's say that you had a lot of material to come off and you did it in different levels. Let's say that you took 2 passes, one using this style toolpath and then one where you did left to right or zigzag, where the lines or your finish on your part is actually going to look in straight lines. All right, that covers facing, an operation that you will do on a lot of your parts, on a lot of your processes, especially the first toolpath to basically expose the top of your part. All right, so if this video helped you, please hit the like button. Please don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.